What if I told you that your biggest dream might be the very things keeping you stuck? Sounds strange, right? Because most people believe dreaming big is a good thing, and it is, until dreaming becomes a substitute for actions. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Millions of people have big dreams. They dream about financial freedom. They dream about starting a business. They dream about becoming successful. They dream about changing their lives. But years later, their lives look almost exactly the same. Why? What happens between the dream and the reality? The answer is psychology. And once you understand it, you may see yourself differently. Think about this. Have you ever imagined a better future? A future where you are financially free, where you don't worry about money, where you have more freedom, more control, and more options. Of course, you have. Almost everyone has. The problem isn't dreaming. The problem is what happens after the dreams. Because most people experience something dangerous. A feelings that looks like progress, but isn't. When you imagine success, your brain rewards you. You feel excited, motivated, inspired for a moment. It feels like you are moving closer to your goal. But here's the trap. You haven't actually done anything yet. You have only imagined it. Yet your brain has already given you part of the emotional rewards, and that rewards can become addictive. This is why some people spend years talking about what they are going to do instead of actually doing it. They love the feeling of the dream, but they avoid the discomfort of actions. Because actions is hard, dreaming is easy. Think about your own life. How many goals have you delayed? How many times have you said, I will start next month. I will begin when things calm down. I will do it when I have more time. Sounds reasonable. But for most people, those words become permanent because the perfect moments never arrives. And that's where another psychological trap appears. Fear. Not fear of failure, fears of reality. Because as long as your dreams stay in your head, it stays perfect. The moment you take actions, you risk discovering how difficult the journey actually is. And many people would rather protect the dream than test it. This is why planning can something become procrastinations. People spend months researching, watching video, reading books, taking notes, learning more and more. But they never start because learning feels productive, yet it's safer than actions. Now imagine this. You want to improve your financial life, so you watch dozens of videos, read articles, follow experts, and every time you feel inspired. But 6 months later, nothing has changed. Why? Because information alone doesn't create result. Action does. And action is where most people stop. Here's the another uncomfortable truth. Big dreams can something create small actions. Because the bigger the goal feels, the more overwhelming it becomes. You look at the distance between where you are and where you want to be, and your brain says that's impossible. So instead of taking the first step, you take no step at all. That's why successful people often think differently. They don't focus on the entire mountain. They focus on the next step, the next actions, the next small improvement, because progress creates momentum and momentum creates confidence. Most people are waiting to feel ready, but readiness is a myth. You don't become confident and then take actions. You take actions and confidence follow. That's how growth works. And here's something that changes everything. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not always the most talented. They are not always the smartest. Often, they are simply the people who keep moving, even when they don't feel ready, even when they are uncertain, even when progress feels slow. Because they understand something most people don't. Small actions repeated consistently are more powerful than big dreams repeated endlessly. Read that again. Small actions repeated consistently are more powerful than big dreams repeated endlessly. Think about how many lives have been changed by one simple decisions, one phone calls, one applications, one investment, one skill learned, 1 hour used differently, not because the action was huge, but because it started movement. The tragedy isn't that people dream too big. The tragedy is that they underestimate small actions. They think success comes from one giant breakthrough, when in reality, it usually comes from hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. So if you are waiting for the perfect moment, stop. If you are waiting to feel ready, stop. If you are waiting for motivation, stop. Because your future isn't built by what you plan to do, it's built by what you do next. And maybe that's the real difference between people who change their lives. The people who only imagine changing their lives. One group keeps dreaming, the other starts moving. Years from now, you won't regret the actions you took. You will regret the actions you never started. And that's why today's matters. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because every successful life begins the same way with one small step taken before you feel ready. If this video made you think differently, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Because here, you don't just learn about money and success, you learn how to avoid the mental trap that keeps people stuck for years. Be honest, what is the one goal you have been thinking about for months but still haven't taken actions on? Drop your answer in the comments.